Okay, so let me scoot my chair up. That's not what I was looking for.
Looking for...
Yeah, there we go. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we just went to go see Thor: The Dark World. But before we actually talk about the movie, why not discuss the previews that we saw? Well, the few that we did.
Yeah, if we saw Captain America, which I still don't know why they made a sequel to that. They shouldn't have even made the first movie.
Well, the whole point of the first movie was just to lead up to the Avengers.
Still, could have done without it.
I don't really know how I feel about the sequel. Because, you know, it doesn't have Tommy Lee Jones in it.
Yeah.
I think when we were walking in, there was a preview for the next X-Men movie.
Yeah, like, all I saw was, like,
I saw
Mystique on the ground, like, and then, like, getting pulled or something like that.
I think I saw Ian McKellen for, like, a split second as we were walking in. I guess that's supposed to be about the Brotherhood or something.
I don't know. All I know is, like, they're asking for someone's help.
The X-Men movies need to stop.
They're horrible with the continuity of the line. They're horrible with their own continuity, let alone the comic books.
Yeah. Like, I liked First Class. First Class was a good movie, but in context of the other movies...
I still don't like First Class because, well, for one, they messed up their own continuity of their own movie when he got paralyzed when it shows...
him walking in the third movie.
While he was bald. And then there's also the fact that he did not get paralyzed by a reflected bullet from Magneto. He got paralyzed fighting an alien that was trying to freaking take over the world.
Okay, so we had the RoboCop reboot.
Which, I like how that was looking.
Did you notice that how in some scenes it had him in his, like, original outfit?
Yeah, the blue.
And then certain, it was, like, the new one with the red visor.
Well, it was, like, saying, like, how he was trying to undo everything he did to him, so I'm thinking that maybe the blue armor was, like, his own thing. The black armor was, like, their standard armor that they gave him.
It has Samuel L. Jackson in it.
Well, that's always a good thing.
Yeah. He's only been in a couple bad movies. I want to say I'm interested in the RoboCop movie. Kind of how I was interested in the Judge Dredd reboot.
You know, I never even seen the original Judge Dredd, let alone the second one.
You haven't,
the reboot.
You haven't seen the Stallone?
Nope.
What the fuck is wrong with you, man? Well...
I haven't even seen Goonies.
Yeah, we need to have a fucking movie night. Okay, what else did we have? Oh, we had a ride-along. I think that's
yeah, I've already seen previews for that.
Yeah. That movie I want to fucking see.
It seemed funny.
You know, I often have bitched and moaned that Ice Cube needs to stop doing, like, comedy and kids' movies and such. He did one thing. Okay. Ice Cube being in a comedy, I don't have a problem with. But as soon as he did fucking Are We There Yet, I thought that his career went down the drain.
Yeah, it did get kind of bad.
So yeah, Right Along I'm really interested in. I mean, it's a black comedy that's not Tyler Perry black comedy. Like, this
Tyler Perry is supposed to be a comedy?
Good point. But it looks like a comedy that has black people. Like, it just looks funny. It's funny on its own merits.
Yeah. Was there any other previews we saw?
There's that Tom Clancy story with the...
Oh, yeah, Shadow Agent.
I haven't a fucking clue what that's about. Trailer did not explain anything.
From what I took from it, a guy got, like, somewhat recruited, as in the Shadow Agent, whatever the fuck that's supposed to be, to do a bunch of freaking spy diplomacy shit.
So it's just a spy movie. Just to put it in a nutshell.
Pretty much.
Not really all that interested. Like, that's a movie my dad's gonna torrent and probably watch a couple of times. That's about it. Do we have any others? No, I think that was it, because we did kind of come in kind of late into the previews.
Yeah.
Let's hear your thoughts on Thor: The Dark World.
Well, since I'm not as much of a stickler as you, you know, Based on it goes, had a pretty good storyline, plot through. And besides, I fucking love Loki. But let's hear about you, because this is all about you.
Well, first off, apparently the fucking Vanir are Asians. What? The Vanir are Asians, okay. Asgardians are Nordics. Jotunheim are giant fucking ice creatures. The Vanir are fucking Asians. I
Makes sense.
Makes sense. Okay, so... What was the plot of this movie? Like, because Thor destroyed the Bifrost in the first Thor movie, then all the world started getting into wars and shit. Am I getting that right? Or was the war started because of the Avengers movie?
I'm not sure. From what I see of it, nobody fucking likes the Asgard. Like, the other worlds that are, like, sentient to the different planes, they don't like the Asgard. Because they're kind of stuck-up assholes.
They're kind of like the America of this universe, because they try to police every other fucking world. But they do not touch Earth for some godforsaken reason. So apparently everyone's fighting each other, they're going to the different worlds to try to create peace. Once again, like America. And who the fuck is the character supposed to be that decided to stay in Vanir?
Oh, he's like one of Thor's team members, like the first one, because he has like this set team that comes to go find him and all that shit.
Yeah, I remember that from the first movie.
But,
and one thing I have to complain about is Loki's prison. Like, that prison doesn't look that fucking bad. I mean, it looks really nice for a prison.
well, the thing about that is because, you know, his mom being the queen, you know, kind of gives you a little bit of a leeway. Even though it was all illusion and Loki was going fucking batshit crazy and destroying his room.
We'll get to that. We're talking about, like, the beginning of this movie. But yeah, if you actually read Nordic mythology and the prose edda and shit, the real prison of Loki, holy shit, way different.
Go on.
Speaking of, I can't wait until they get to make a Thor movie where Loki gets fucked by a horse. This happens.
What?
Yeah, Loki turned himself into a mare to get fucked by Odin's stallion. You want to hear his excuse? He lost a bet to the dwarves.
Where the fuck is this from?
The prose edda, like the writings of Nordic mythology. And you think that Greek mythology is fucked up.
All the Greeks want to do is shove things in their asses, okay?
Yeah, this is true. But, so in the beginning of the movie, they talk about, like, this war against the Dark Elves and on how... Like, I don't quite understand the Dark Elves' plan. They were just like, let's take our fucking crucifix-looking ship and go out to the deep, darkest part of space and then just cloak ourselves.
Well, the thing with that is, they were losing the war. Because apparently the Dark Elves were around before all the other planes. And all the other planes brought light, and apparently they're, you know, like fucking vampires or some shit, don't like the light. So, like, hey, let's blow up the sun, scientifically.
Which...
Although I do like the style of the ships, where they're pretty much just giant flying swords that cut
They
through
were
shit.
giant fucking knives that were, like, flying through the fucking air. Like, I'm not going to, like, fucking college for aerodynamics or anything. Aerodynamics, but... How the fuck does a giant knife fly through the sky, like, with no visible engines on it? Oh, wait, let me guess. Science.
Well, you know, Obviously, their version of science is a lot more advanced than ours, seeing as how they conquered space flight. They can go through different planes of fucking existence. And you're worried about how a sword can fly. Thor is a fucking magical hammer that enables him to fly. Yet their ships need engines?
Hey,
Science? Really?
The hammer thing makes sense. He goes, boom, 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 pew, pew, and then he goes to the place he wants to. It makes sense. But one thing that I did get from the beginning of this movie that I thought was kind of funny is the worlds are aligning. You know, because that's not a basic plot of almost every other science fiction story. And the guy has the Aether in this pillar thing. Just out in the fucking open. And pay heed, the Bifrost apparently can teleport anybody where they want. So right before he unleashes the Aether, beam of light takes away. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Now, my question is, 1, how long has that thing been out there? 2, how long has the war been going on? 3, why the fuck did you not think of that sooner?
Yeah, it should be really like the opening move, not losing hundreds of fucking warriors to begin with.
But then again, we learn about Odin in this movie that he really doesn't give two shits about how many people die.
Yeah. All he cares is winning. He's the Charlie Sheen of the Asgard.
No, he's more like the fucking Joe Madden of Asgard. All he cares about is winning. I tried to make a football joke. I hope that's relevant to football. Isn't Joe Madden the, manager of the Buccaneers? Your parents watch the shit, I don't.
There's so much fucked up with that right now. I'm just trying to follow what you think is real.
I could have swore there was a guy named Madden who's the manager of the Buccaneers. Am I wrong?
And there was my phone, which we're using as a stand. Hope that was enjoyable for all of you.
I'll edit the audio.
But Madden is the guy, the whole reason they made the Madden football games.
No, but there's also a Madden who manages the Buccaneers. I know the Madden you're talking about. I'm talking about a different Madden.
I don't think there was ever a Madden that managed the Buccaneers.
We're derailing. Let's talk about the movie. Before I make a bigger ass out of myself. Wait, nope. Me talking about this movie is going to make a bigger ass out of myself.
Anywhere in an ass hat.
It's a bunnet.
Ass hat.
Okay, so Dark Elves go into space, go invisible, go into cryo sleep. There's your backstory.
Which apparently all you need for cryo sleep is a fancy mask.
You have to admit that mask is pretty fucking fancy.
But still, that would only keep their face cryogenic. And, well, let's face it. It doesn't matter if you have a baby face, if you have the body of a 175,000-year-old. You're not going to do very well.
Science, let's leave it at that. Okay, so, there's your backstory. Coming back to Frozen Times. And... can I say something? If the one, perky human character... because, as far as I'm concerned, there's only 4 human characters in this movie that you really need to talk about. There's, Crazy Eric. Eric's gone crazy.
The intern. The intern of the intern.
And Jane.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even catch the 2 interns. Oh, wait, no. The intern of the intern's name is Ian. The only reason why I know that is because he said it every 5 fucking minutes.
Because everyone referred to him as intern. He's intern squared, to be exact.
But what I was getting at is, what is intern chick's, what is her reasoning for staying with this group of people, moving to fucking London, if she apparently doesn't get paid?
Well, the original intern said she didn't get paid.
Right. What?
And the other chick, her whole purpose is she was trying to find and track down Thor. That's why she was following the anomaly.
Well, I understand that, but...
so technically, she wasn't getting paid. We don't even know if, she probably had some kind of job to pay the bills, that she just fucking quit as soon as Thor showed up.
I can understand that about Jade. Jade's looking for Thor. Makes sense. What the fuck is intern chicks? Like, what is her reasoning for doing this?
Nothing better to do. While we're sitting here reviewing a movie, nothing better to do.
Hey, some people get revenue off reviewing movies.
If they do it consistently.
True. Okay, and so they're in London, and apparently they find an anomaly with a techno-gadget doodly bobber, which no one explains what the fuck this thing does. It just beeps and says things.
It detects anomalies.
It detects anomalies. How?
Science.
Science. Okay, every question I have, if it can be explained with science, just turn to me and say science, okay? Because I'm going to be asking a lot of these kind of questions.
Okay.
Okay, so they find an anomaly in London, which apparently if you drop something down a stairwell, it appears above you and drops back down. And as soon as I saw that, I started thinking of Portal. I almost wanted to turn to you and say, are you thinking of portals?
The cake is a lie. So ironically, I was going to wear my Deadpool Portal shirt.
One Deadpool t-shirt's good enough.
Yep.
But they only do this whole, like, teleporty thingy once. Or sometimes, rather. Which became funny when she decided to throw her car keys into it.
No, the intern decided to.
The intern.
But that actually had a point to it, because they found it later on and it came in handy.
Yeah, the whole reason why...
Even though Thor could fucking fly, they decided to drive. Did anyone else notice that?
I was thinking of that. But the whole reason for them driving and him not flying is just so then he could do the joke, who's Richard?
Which, did anyone else realize how awkward it was for him to try to get in the car in his armor?
I thought the reason why it took him so hard to get into the car is because it was fucking destroyed.
Well, the windows were destroyed.
The windows were destroyed.
And the car did, like, stutter on the startup.
Yeah. That's what tipped me off for why it was so awkward for him getting in.
Not the fact that he was the size of the car.
The joke is British cars are smaller than ours. So British cars are Tim's car. He would do well in London. Except the steering wheel's on the wrong side.
So, yeah.
So, the whole reason for why there's a fucking anomaly in London is just so then love interest can fall into a portal on accident. No, she gets pulled into the portal. Why? Science. She gets pulled into a portal and she appears on Zavart Alfheim.
Shadow World, for layman terms.
Which they spell wrong in the whole title card. They just say it's Zavart Alfheim. Except it's Zavart Alfheim.
Savart.
The whole reason why there's an anomaly in London is just so she can get pulled through the portal and she gets infected with the Aether. Which they kept pronouncing ether. Even though in the subtitles you notice that there's an A then an E.
Science.
Science can't explain bad writers.
Really? Really?
Really. And so, she gets infected with the Aether, and while infected with the Aether, Thor gets a wild hair up his ass and decides to take her back to Asgard. Which, you know...
Okay, you're talking about bad writers, you just said Asgard.
Asgard. I had a cigarette in my mouth, which I was throwing out, okay?
You were throwing it out, it wasn't in your mouth.
Bad writers does not account for the fact that I cannot pronounce things.
Published author, everyone.
Published author, everyone. I can write, I just can't talk. So, Thor takes Jane back to Asgard because she's infected with the Aether. Sorry, ether. And apparently, when you're infected with the ether, every time someone touches you, you go kablooey and they go, wow!
And you get visions from the future.
Yeah. Except they're not visions from the future, they're just visions of what would happen if the big bad decided to get his hands on the ether.
Which he did, so future.
Except it didn't happen, so not future.
That's because they knew it was happening. They changed continuity. You don't know anything about time travel 101?
I know more about time travel than Doctor Who, thank you very much.
But not Dr. Brown.
Back to the Future has awful continuity in it. So what was I saying before that tangent? Oh yes, so you get visions of the future. And I'm pretty sure I just gave away the ending. By the way, good guys win.
Big whoop. That's what happens in every other movie.
Maybe I should have said that before turning on the camera. Spoiler alert.
It's a Marvel movie. It's implied good guys win.
Except during Final Crisis, which was a comic book story that I never read, but people talk about.
So I said Marvel movie. That wasn't a movie.
Actually, I can argue that in X3 the good guys didn't win. But at the same time, the bad guys didn't win either. So, he takes her back to Asgard, and Big Papa gets all PC, because he doesn't like humans. What was the analogy he said? The reason for why a human is not allowed to Asgard is like having a goat at the dinner table.
Yep, pretty much. We're goats.
Apparently we're goats.
Bah.
Man. You can actually pull off the goat because you got the fucking goatee going on.
Yes, that was the joke.
I know.
Thank you for pointing out for people as slow as you.
I didn't know if the goatee actually made it on the camera.
I moved it onto my goatee onto the camera and I stroked it to point it out. See, you should edit in like an entire like little sparkle around that so they're focused on it.
Don't worry, I will. I got the software. Man. So apparently we're goats. And one thing that I didn't understand was every time someone touches Jane, then they go kabooey.
When they were trying to forcefully touch her.
Right. So how does he forcefully make her his prisoner later in the movie?
Because the guard came up and said, "I'm sorry about this, but will you please come with me?" He never touched her.
I still don't see why Jane didn't put that to her advantage. Say, no, fuck you, and then shoot the fucking ether at her. Or at him.
Because she was a host. As in, it was a parasite, not symbiotic relationship.
And with Jane having the ether on Asgard, then on the Dark Elves, like all of a sudden it just turns on. Their whole like crucifix-looking ship.
Yeah, which even though the ships are cloaked and the Guardian apparently isn't able to see them, he was still able to run up the bridge, jump on one of them, and then kill it with a dagger.
You could clearly see that ship, dude.
Because they made it to where we can see it.
Which is what I assumed Heimdall could see. Which, this annoyed me with the first movie, but I'm going to point it out here because this is my first time reviewing this movie. Heimdall's a black guy. Apparently, there were black Vikings.
Racist.
That is not racist.
Racist.
Heimdall's black. So, just like the Von are Asians.
Exactly. And you're a racist.
Continuing on, the Dark Elves go to Alfheim, or Asgard, and they just start fucking shit up. Which is how we get to what he said. Heimdall saw a ship coming, so he has this whole, like, his solo action scene of jumping onto a ship and destroying it with a knife.
Even though they're having trouble with cannons to destroy the ships. But a knife, that works.
Oh, by the way, apparently Asgard has anti-aircraft, like, turrets.
They had those little boats that, you see in, like, the movies in, like, France, like, little boats going down.
They're gondolas.
Yeah, they have little gondolas that could fly. And you're wondering about them having anti-aircraft turrets.
Since when the fuck have they had anti-aircraft turrets? They've had the gondolas, okay?
But they couldn't fly. It kind of leads to believe if they have aircraft, they should have anti-aircraft turrets. You know, because of science.
Science!
Word of the day today, science.
I'm actually gonna have a counter in the bottom corner.